Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi and welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio network. Now, you'll recall that in episode 58, I was honoured to have the eminent Dr. Farokh Master on the show, and we discussed a great many things, including the homeopathic materia medica and how best to understand it, and the diagnostic approach to case-taking. So do make sure to check this episode out, which is available, as always, on all the major podcast platforms and also on ukhealthradio.com. And I also have to take this opportunity actually to thank all the listeners, because we have actually gone over 200,000 listeners, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you so very much, and do spread the word. And, let's work together to raise the flag of homeopathy. Now, I'm absolutely delighted, and of course I'm very humbled as well, to welcome back Dr. Farokh Master to the Homeopathy Health Show today. A true delight indeed. Dr. Farokh Master, blessings to you and a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm very good.
I know there's a lot of traveling that you've been doing recently.
Yes.
You must tell me what medicines you take, because you are looking extremely handsome and very, very young. Now, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to very much talk about the specialist field of interest that you have. But before we go into that, there is always this question in homeopathy about potency. And this is a question that's often raised, as you very well know, from students to even those very well established. Do we go in at a 10M? Is it a 1M? Is it 200? Is it LM? Is it a tincture? Is it a 1X, a 3X? So what are your valuable insights into this question, and whether it is a valid question, to be honest?
So potency selection is directly proportional to the susceptibility of an individual, and hence it will always vary from patient to patient. So there is no solid watertight compartment rules that one has to follow, but one has to strictly prescribe and select a potency based on the susceptibility. If the susceptibility is very poor, very low, person is immunocompromised, then we usually think of a lower potency. The susceptibility of the person is strong, average, good, we usually go to medium and higher potency. Susceptibility is an inherent power of every human being to react to a stimulus. A person who does not react to any stimulus has a very poor susceptibility. So when you take a case, when you analyze the symptom, when you examine the patient, when you see the medical reports, when you look at the age of the patient, the occupation of the patient, the constitution of the patient, the symptoms of the patient, these are all the factors which will help you to build up the susceptibility of an individual. And then you grade the susceptibility into average, good, poor, very poor, and base your potency selection only on that, and not just whimsically start giving very high potency, as some homeopaths love to do that, or very low potency, as some homeopaths love to do that. Don't do that. As far as repetition of the dose goes, one has to follow the rules which are laid down very clearly by Dr. Kent in his textbook of philosophy, that only if the previous potency has really acted on the patient, you have a right to increase the potency. But if you have selected a remedy and the response is very poor or absolutely no response, please don't go to a higher potency unnecessarily, thinking that it will going to cure the patient. Or if the patient is improving and you want him to improve fast, don't keep on increasing the potency. This is not the right way. So I would recommend the readers that they should revise their chapters on homeopathic philosophy written by Dr. J.T. Kent and follow those rules, because that is what I have been following for last 4 decades.
Thank you so much for that very detailed answer. I would now actually want to ask if you could give us some examples of cases and potencies, just to give an idea, especially, let's say, for an acute condition, several maybe, and some more chronic cases, let's say.
Okay, so there are multiple views we can give this answer. So potency can only be answered through a case only and not through anything else. This is very, very important. Let me tell you that. Let me start with a very simple case of a patient who was very, very highly diabetic, young businessman, a Hindu, basically enjoying the family business, gets married, has a children, develops a very large problem in his marital life, and due to the stress of marital life, the sugar goes high and the label of diagnosis of diabetes mellitus type 2 comes on his head. He starts the modern medication, but modern medication is unable to check the alarming levels of sugar. Sugar goes as high as 500 even when he takes medicine. So finally the doctor says you have to be on insulin, and that is going to be for lifelong. Now patient got frightened. He comes to me if homeopathy can offer him something. So our homeopathic case taking, detailed case taking that we do, as mentioned in the first 70 aphorisms of Organon of philosophy, we always follow that standardized case record forms, and we understood his life history totally, and based on his life history, his symptomatology, we thought that lycopodium is the best medicine that suits him. He was very healthy otherwise. He had no other problems other than the high blood sugar, due to which he was feeling little weak. His energy levels were low, but he was otherwise pretty healthy. So his susceptibility, according to our judgment, was pretty good, even though the reports were not so good. So we started, and because it was a chronic case, he had diabetes for last about 9 months before he came to me, which was not under control. So I started using 50 millisimal LM scale potencies, and we started with LM1, and then gradually over a period of next 1.5 years, we went up to LM12. That was the potency. Repetition was at least twice a day, and at every 6 weeks we monitored his sugar level, and we told him not to start insulin. We also tried to cut his oral hypoglycemic drugs by 20% in the first month itself, and by 50% in the first 3 months. And in the first 6 months, totally kept him only on homeopathy. And for next 12 months, he was observed only on homeopathy. So totally 1.5 years. His sugar, which was in running in the tune of 500 to 600 in fasting, only with homeopathy came down to 89. So mark difference. His postprandial sugar, which used to run in 400s and 300s, came to 150. His energy levels improved. Of course, his domestic life with his wife and his relationship with his wife went very sour because it was going sour since last many years. So ultimately, he ended up with a divorce. So then there was a period of little depression that was going around in his life. He was unhappy with his life. He was thinking negative. He never knew what to do with his life, and he was feeling why this happened to me and why am I suffering and all those things.
Mm.
So based on that, we gave him aurum metallicum. He did wonderfully well with aurum metallicum also. So in that way also we were very happy. We started with, and because he was again not very sick, so we started with aurum met 1M, one dose every week for few weeks. Within 3 to 4 months, that depression part went away. He joined his father's business, family business, all over again. And then we stopped homeopathic treatment and we said, now you just control your diet, good exercise. Now this is a story of about last 6 years. He comes every year with a annual checkup report. Sugars are normal, heart, lung, liver, whatever you say, cholesterol, lipids, everything is normal. He's totally cured and he's a very normal male all over again. So here I showed you the potency, I showed you the drugs, I showed you the repetition, and it was an autoimmune disease, diabetes type 2.
Thank you so much. That's very valuable information as well. What do you say to those patients that are always in a rush? As you very well know, because of conventional medicine being readily available, people are very much for chronic conditions in a rush. Oh, just give me a painkiller and I'll go away, you know. So how does one go about educating, I suppose is the best word, educating others that, look, this is the process, this is the healing mechanism of your body, this is who you are, and this is why it's going to take whatever time it takes. We can't certainly say, oh, it's going to take 3 weeks, it's going to take 3 months.
I understood your problem. See, to be honest, homeopathy does not cure everything from A to Z. I always tell my patients, when modern medicine ends, homeopathy begins. And where homeopathy ends, modern medicine begins. So for many conditions, allopathy is the best drug of choice, especially in very acute emergency cases, especially in accidental cases where there is a life and death situations. Here, one should not even think of homeopathy, because you will waste your time in history and trying to talk with the patient, which you may not be able to do so. You may not be able to deliver the medicine. So hence here, on the spot treatment should always be allopathy. It's good. People do improve. Another thing is that in many conditions, antibiotics can be a lifesaver when there are fulminant infections in the body that threatens death. Good in that way. So in a way, modern medicine is good and is helpful and has helped people over last hundreds of years. That is the scope. The problem comes is that with every allopathic drug that you take, or with every modern medicine drug you take, it does not improve your susceptibility. Homeopathy is the only system of medicine that improves the susceptibility and at the same time removes the symptom. So let's say a woman gets infection in the urine before menses every cycle. And what does she do? Every cycle she takes a course of antibiotics. In 2 days she is well. Correct. But then the next menstrual cycle, again she gets an infection. Again she takes antibiotics. So in a year, maybe she takes 6-7 times antibiotics. Now these are the cases which should never be treated with antibiotics. Because what is happening over here is that antibiotic is able to cure that acute phase, but it does not improve the susceptibility, and hence the people will keep on getting repeated infection in the same organ. You give them homeopathic medicine based on the symptom totality. What will happen? The disease will never come back again. Even if it comes back again, it will be with the less intensity. Treat her more, it will never ever come back. This is the greatest advantage with homeopathy, and this is what I explain to my patients. And then they understand, and then they say, okay, Dr. Master, now we understood. In the next infection, we are not going to take painkillers, we are not going to take antibiotics. We will straight away come to you. This is one way. The second way is to make them aware of the suppression. Almost every allopathic drug suppresses the vital force of the human body. That's what Hahnemann says in the organon, irrespective how simple the medicine can be. Could be a simple paracetamol that we all take, or it could be the big antibiotic that we take. Everything has a suppressive effect on the human body because it is not based on the law of similars. That's what Hahnemann says. So now what is going to happen? Let us understand that phenomena. So taking one tablet once a year is not going to affect you in any way. But taking one tablet multiple times in a month, multiple times in a year, definitely is going to have a suppressive effect. So what will happen? Let's say you have a headache, correct? And you take a tablet Ceridon. Ceridon contains caffeine plus paracetamol. It's a very powerful medicine for headache. You take it and in 15-20 minutes, your headache disappears. Good. After some times, what is going to happen? The headache will be better. And now what will happen? The rheumatic pains will start in the body. Patient does not understand. Patient considers rheumatic pain as a very different disease. He goes to a rheumatologist. Rheumatologist adds few more painkillers or few more anti-inflammatory. Again, there is a suppression. After that suppression, what is going to happen? That another illness will come in the form of some eczema, and the person is going to apply some ointment, and then the eczema is suppressed. Like that, it is like a bear went over the mountain and saw another mountain, and bear went over the mountain, saw another mountain. The story keeps on continuing. Finally, the man who started only with headache, today he has rheumatism, today he has eczema, and today he has got many more complaints. When you make the patient realize from where he started and where he has ended, he will understand this phenomena. And then you take collectively all the suppressions put together, select one remedy, and that will remove all these kinds of suppression. Of course, it won't be a magical removal of the symptoms. It may take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on the chronicity of the complaint that patient has developed. So the second most phenomena I explain to my patient is theory of suppression. Taking allopathic drugs, sometimes it becomes so badly suppressed that there are no symptoms available on the surface. So if you ask a chronic migraine person what improves your headache, and he will say painkillers. And I say, what will aggravate your headache? And he will say, if I don't take the tablet. Now what you are going to get information from these kind of answers? So it becomes highly difficult for a homeopathic physician because we depend on the symptoms. What kind of headache? If it's a bursting headache, we think of Usnea barbata. If it's a dull headache, we think of gelsemium. If it's a throbbing headache, we think of belladonna. But all these sensations are not there or lacking in a case which is very badly suppressed. And that is why this is another reason. And the third and the final reason is the side effects. So if you take painkillers, if you take allopathic drugs, no allopathic drug is without any side effect. I have not seen in my whole life any drug which in the label or the literature does not have side effects. Sometimes there are 2 or 3, sometimes they run in pages. And that is why I tell the patient that to remove one disease, we cannot induce 2 more diseases. It does not make any sense. When I give this kind of education to my patients, they understand, they accept, and then they become a permanently well-wisher of homeopathy and seek my advice before popping any pills in their mouth.
That's very eloquently said, and I think you've touched upon 2 very, very important points. One, conventional medicine has its place, just like any form of medicine, be it conventional or non-conventional, if that is such a word, and it has its rightful place. But number 2, there is a fine line or a limit that one can go to, and when you cross that, then this whole system of suppression and the fact that it manifests into other ailments and diseases and so forth occurs. And I think that's so important to understand. And it's a wonderful way to also educate patients that, look, it's fine if you were to take a painkiller here and there, but anything more can result in problems later on. I always find that, certainly in the West, when you're young, you think you're invincible and you can take pills, you can take tablets, and you never think twice about it. But as always, age catches up with us all. And after 10 or 15 years of continuous use, certainly we find, these diseases become very, very embedded in a human body. And this is certainly also the case now with autoimmune disorders, is it not? And this actually takes me on to your specialist field of interest, Dr. Master, which is the treatment of diseases with advanced pathology. So this includes kidney failure or renal failure, as they call it, blood poisoning, so septicemia, respiratory failure, autoimmune diseases, and other, even further than that, even more serious conditions as well, including cancers and so forth. So when somebody presents with, let's take an example. A patient presents with being overweight, history of blood pressure, a very poor diet, and has recently been diagnosed with diabetes. They say that their joints hurt, or they've got swelling on the legs. Now, generally, when somebody presents so much, what is your approach to treating that patient? Because there's a multitude of, let's say, ailments or diseases, and the patient is on their knees because they're thinking, oh my God, where do you start? And it can be very challenging for a practitioner, no matter how educated or how experienced, should I say, a practitioner is. What's your delightful insights, please, on this?
See, honestly, first of all, there should be a very clear-cut diagnosis based on the blood test to rule out any other illness, and we should not mix any other illness with autoimmune disease. Basically, autoimmune disease is a condition where the body's own defense mechanism acts against our own body because immune cells are not able to differentiate between a normal body cell and a foreign cell. So this is the main reason. Now what will disturb this harmony? This is very important to understand. Our human body is made by God in such a beautiful way that every organ, every cell works in harmony with every other cell or every other organ of the body. Everything is connected. And this connection is through neuroendocrine axis. That is the main government, that is the main prime minister, that is the main president of the country. So they govern everything, every function. But it does not work on its own. I will give you an example. In modern medicine, if you have asthma, you take bronchodilators. That's all. You will be better. In modern medicine, if you have epilepsy, you take anti-epileptic drug. Gone. You are much better. If you have a fever, in modern medicine, you take antipyretic, the fever will go down. The problem is that it will come back again if you don't take it. It will come back. Now, what is happening? Modern medicine is only looking at an epilepsy, thinking there is a shock circuit of electrical impulses in the brain. That's all. It focuses on the brain in a tunnel vision way. Asthma, it focuses on the bronchus in a tunnel vision way. Homeopathy doesn't think like that. Homeopathy thinks epilepsy is a generalized disease. So epilepsy is there in every part, every cell of your body. And that is why you have to consider the man behind the disease and study the whole neuroendocrine system. And what are the organs in neuroendocrine system? The mind, the emotions, the body, the every organs of the body. All these are part, the lymphatic system, the liver, the spleen, the lymph node. All these are taken into consideration, and then we select a remedy. And that is why in this way we come very close to how the body works. Because what rules or regulation a president or a prime minister makes in the country, it goes to different states. Once it goes to different states, it goes to different districts, different talukas, and finally to the common man. It goes like that. Similarly, in our human body also, what the endocrine secretes the hormones, some are endocrine, some are exocrine. These hormones will now act at the organs. Organs will then act on the blood vessels. Blood vessels will then act on the individual cells. You saw? So what is the rule that comes from the top goes all the way to the individual cells. So this is how homeopathy works in harmony with the body mechanism. And that is the main reason why homeopathic drugs are more effective in autoimmune disease than modern medicine, because in autoimmune they can control the symptom beautifully. They can remove the inflammation, pain, everything. Only till the time you take it. And then after some times they don't act. They have the side effects. So you increase the dose, you change the type of medication, and all those things will come and get a lot of side effects. A simple drug is hydrochloroquine, which they use for rheumatoid arthritis, which was also used in COVID-19 pandemic. What happened with people who took more than 400 milligrams of HCQS? They developed visual problems. The skin became darker. It started affecting the kidney. Now what will you do? You have to remove that drug from the body as fast as possible. So here what we do is to study the human being as a whole individual, note down his symptomatology and try to match that picture with a materia medica. I'll give you a little example. A Muslim lady came from Saudi Arabia to my hospital with a very bad rheumatoid arthritis. In Saudi Arabia, there is no homeopathy. So she was definitely kept on steroids and immunosuppression and all those things. And then she was in a hell. She put so much weight with the steroids. Her health deteriorated. So her husband came to know about me and they took a flight, came to Bombay. Now it was a very sad story. While in Bombay, as they landed, she started getting fever. Then slowly the fever did not come under control. They went to a local doctor in Bombay, did some investigation, and they found out she now has tuberculosis of the lungs. Now that poor lady has got tuberculosis of the lungs, she was given anti-tubercular drugs. She vomits. She vomits all the drug. So they say now we'll give injection. She develops side effect of the injections also. Now rheumatoid is like that. On the side, active TB treatment is being done. Husband gets very frustrated. She ends up in my hospital where I am working. Husband said, please have a look at my wife. I am tired with allopathy. 10 years in Saudi Arabia, I spent so much money, no improvement. I am in Bombay since last 4 months, spending all the time money in hospital. My wife is not better at all. So we do a homeopathic consultation. He was a nice gentleman. Wife was also very cooperative and she starts giving me the history. Now the whole problem was of a joint family system. There were 3 brothers, they had factories, working together. Children became big. When the children became big and wanted to enter the business, the brothers decided to separate from the joint business. There was not equal share between the brothers and there was a dispute, and that dispute became quite bigger and larger, and that affected the wife much more because now they are all staying separately. First they were staying in one building, first floor one brother, second floor second brother. Now one brother is staying far, second brother is staying far. Wife remains alone. She has nobody to talk to. She is shy, she is introvert. That's how the rheumatoid starts. She develops fever, joint pains, joint swelling, and then of course she goes to doctor and medication starts. She is very sensitive. She weeps on slightest cause. She can't see suffering of other people. That was the symptomatology of a lady that I saw. I asked her some more symptoms, what kind of food and you like to have, and she said that, look, Dr. Master, I am not a very big foodie. I eat simple dal and rice and our Arabic food, whatever we eat. And I said, in the past, did you had any illnesses? And she said, yes, I had some abscesses for which I took a lot of antibiotic. Finally, the abscesses did not come under control and it had need to be operated. I said, okay. As a child, she says, as a child, I was a weak child. I was anemic and my mother used to give me that liver soup and trotter soup and all those things to make me stronger. I was a weak child. I said, good. After marriage, what happened to you? She said, after marriage, everything was very well. It was a large family, so we used to work, but there was a happiness. I said, what else would you like to drink or eat or that gives you a lot of happiness? And she says, I cannot eat the bread, the Arabic bread. If I eat Arabic bread, it aggravates my stomach. I said, what else aggravates? She says cheese and made from goat and all those things also I cannot eat because that also aggravates my body.
Mm.
Then she said cucumbers also does not suit my body. Eggs, she says I can eat one, but if I eat every day, it aggravates me. So I saw she has so many aggravation with bread and cheese and egg and cucumbers and suppression of the abscess, her sensitivity. She, I based on that I gave her pulsatilla because pulsatilla covers all those food sensitivity which she had.
Mm.
I gave her with 30 potency and then gradually I increased to 200. And I said, now please bring her out of hospital because I would love to treat tuberculosis and rheumatoid together. Because anyway, she is not able to take allopathic drug. Why keep her in hospital? And you can keep a nurse as a nursing care. And because they were from Saudi Arabia, so I said, don't stay in a hotel because that's not a good place. Rent an apartment and stay there and I can help your wife. So he said, no, I would rather take my wife to Saudi Arabia than to stay in Bombay because there we have our community, our relatives and everybody. I said, not a bad decision. So I gave her pulsatilla. Now pulsatillas are not only based on tuberculosis, but it was also based on a rheumatoid also. After 3 months of pulsatilla, they again come back. I was surprised. I said, take an X-ray, do ESR, check your blood count, this, that. There was no tuberculosis. I said, what about your rheumatoid? She says, my rheumatoid is much better. I'm not dependent on painkiller as I used to. I said, very good. I said, that is what we really want you to do it finally because we want you to only be on homeopathic medicine.
Mm.
Then she said, okay, yeah, Dr. Master, you know what? One thing has happened. I have praying to God all the times that something good happens in my family and everybody, unites together and this and that. And there was a Bakri Eid in our Saudi Arabia, a very big, what should I say, homeopathic, that's what, a Muslim festival. And we all met together and we talked together and the brothers are now thinking of uniting together again. I said, that's a very good news. I said, this is what you always wanted in life, don't you think? She said, yes, Dr. Master, this is what I really wanted to life. My pains are now not so bad as it used to be in the past and I'm able to bear the pain. I increased the potency from 30 to 200 to 1M. And I said, good, take this medicine and now see me only after 6 months to 1 year because you don't need to see me again and again. Again, we repeated the X-ray chest. Again, we did the blood work. For 4 years, I treated her with pulsatilla. In between, of course, she developed many small illnesses. She had a injury on her little finger, so I treated for that. Then she had some bronchitis in the winter. Saudi Arabia winters are pretty strong. Then she had some problem with the, what should I say, suppuration near the umbilicus. All small illnesses came in. I treated very nicely with homeopathy. But overall, the main remedy was pulsatilla and how I gave pulsatilla, what potency I did, the repetition. Today, that lady has hardly any trace of rheumatoid. Lungs X-ray, 4 X-rays have been taken, 1 in India, 3 in Saudi Arabia. Beautifully normal, no trace of tuberculosis. She has put on weight. She is off steroid. She is off immunosuppression, and she's back to normal. So I did it.
What a wonderful story. It's I don't know if you recall, but many years ago, you came to the UK and you delivered, I think it was a seminar or some forum. I can't remember, it's so many years ago. But you gave a case example of the remedy carcinosin. And you spoke about the fact that there was just one indicator that led you to carcinosin. And as a result, the patient was, all the symptoms vanished. And again, it shows with this example how important it is to be able to take that holistic picture. And it's not necessarily about the symptoms that the patient presents, but the little things, the mental, emotional, they're actually not little, I need to rephrase that, but rather the focus upon the mental and emotional. And it's so nice for those listening to know that homeopathy, because it covers mentals, emotionals, and then the physicals, so mind, body, spirit, you could say mind, body, soul, this holistic approach is what is needed. I was talking to somebody very recently, and you're just having a conversation, and they said, oh, the problem with just medicine generally is everything is compartmentalized. So if you have a problem, if you have, for example, headaches, then you will see somebody else compared to whether if you had something wrong with your kidneys. If you had any joint pains, you would see a rheumatologist, for example. Whereas with homeopathy, you take the whole picture, and this is what makes it such a profound, future-proof system of medicine. Because as human beings, the only thing that's left for us, as far as evolving, is the way that we progress. We have evolved, and we've been blessed with a very, very powerful mind. I mean, human beings can achieve great things. But often that is so overlooked. Dr. Master, in closing, I was going to ask you, nowadays, sadly, mental health problems are very, 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 they've spread very much across the world. So many people are suffering. And it doesn't matter what situations they are, perhaps, but the fact that people are also very openly talking about their mental health condition. And how wonderful that over 200 years ago, those remedies that were used by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann are still and always going to be available to treat mental health conditions. I mean, homeopathy is so absolutely in line with treatment of mental health conditions, is it not? It's just absolutely amazing. And the results are so profound.
I agree with you. See, if you carefully read aphorism 225, 226, and from 226 to 267, in these aphorisms, Hahnemann very clearly says that mental disease arise after prolonged emotional disturbances and different psychological depressions like continued anxiety, continued worry, continued vexation, and frequent occurrences of greater fear and fright. Such disease may be of recent origin and may not have developed fully into a corporal disease, but if left untreated, it will definitely produce a psychiatric illness. This is what he very clearly says. 225 aphorism, which is, I have learned it by heart. In 226 he says, while they are yet recent and are capable of making a great inroads into a corporal state named psychosomatic disease. And that is why, look, in every organs of the body there is now a psychotic somatic disease. And this is why what Hahnemann says, don't allow this to stay in your body for a long period, all these emotions. Once in a while some emotion comes and goes, no problem. But if chronic anxiety, chronic worry, chronic vexation, chronic anger remains, and that is the starting point, please visit a homeopath, consult a homeopath, get a remedy, get yourself cured. I promise you, you will not get disease. Remember these aphorisms.
Dr. Farokh Master, it's been such a joy to have you back on the Homeopathy Health Show. Honestly, it's so good indeed, and I thank you. I know you have a very busy schedule as always,
Yes, I do.
which
I
is a
do.
good thing. It's a good thing.
Because I love you, I came back.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Oh my God. Well, you
Yeah.
know, I have so much respect for you, and I suppose I have to say I love you too.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I hope later this year, after summer, we can catch up again. I think that would be absolutely
We will.
delightful. I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.